Welcome, everyone, and thank you for joining me and my very special guest, Beetlejuice star Alex Brightman.
Raising the
Look
roof.
at you. Hey, Alex.
Look at you.
Not bad, right? I clean up pretty well in my apartment in New York, right?
You look fantastic.
Listen, you do too. We were talking about your hair before we went live. I love what's happening with your hair.
You like this sort of Krusty the Clown, like Bozo the Clown flip that's going on now, and with no there's no rhyme or reason to it now. I'm so used to getting my hair cut once every 2 weeks at Beetlejuice, and now I haven't had my hair cut in forever. You forget that you take it for granted.
Yeah.
Until you don't have one, and then you're walking around with this, and I continuously have to kind of push my hair out of the way, and it's I know that a lot of people have problems, but this is a big problem.
It's very late 60s, early 70s, like Brady Bunch, Partridge Family. You got that do going on.
Yeah, no, for sure. I'm definitely the Greg Brady of 2020.
Now, who cut your hair?
My sister-in-law cut my hair,
Okay.
and she did a really good job. When it was cut, I have a picture of it, and it looks very well done. It's just the problem is my hair grows at lightning speed, so it's only been a week and a half since that happened, and now it's back to Greg Brady.
I wish I had that. Mine only grows in the back.
Yeah, barely.
Thank you very much, sir.
Yeah, I can see my reflection in your head.
It's star shine, right?
Beautiful.
Star
Well,
glare.
it fits you. You have a perfect head for the thing that's going on with you with your hair.
Thank you. I appreciate that, because when my hair was falling out, you didn't want to have like this head that sort of went on an angle.
Yeah, no, that's very like kid and play house party style hair, and you would not be good with that.
Listen, first of all, how are you and where are you? Let our fans know where you are.
I'm in Oklahoma,
Okay.
and I am hanging out with my in-laws and getting away from the craziness that is New York City, which was a great move. We did it about nearly 4 weeks ago, and so we are here with a lot of space, with not a lot of people, and so it's nice to sort of be able to quarantine in a more comfortable way. And also, my dog Kevin gets like miles of space to run. He's never been happier. And how am I is, to be honest, fine. I'm okay. I mean, lots of weird stuff happening. 2 days ago, we just found out that Beetlejuice is not happening anymore. So we just got that news. And so we, the writing was on the wall for a lot of shows. And like when we were going to come back was uncertain. And so we knew that we had a deadline.
Yeah.
And so when, we got into April and we were like, all right, so even if we do come back in May, we might not have that many performances left. So then when we got the news that Broadway was going to be extended the shutdown until June 7th, we weren't surprised, but it is still just a bummer to hear. You hear the words that we're not coming back, and you hear like the actual reality of the situation took over for like a second. It's like you do go through that process of like, I'm really going to miss that show. And I do. I miss it desperately still. I'm still not necessarily 100% maybe done processing the feelings that when this is over, there may not be right away a Beetlejuice to get to. I know that there are like active plans in place to like try and revamp and redo and reopen the show. But there's no details because we don't know what's going on with the world. So it is that weird thing where it does, you're mourning it, but you're also like, it was expected, but also it's sad. And so it's everything. But, here's the thing. I am a big proponent of, it could be worse. Like if my biggest problem right now is that I am healthy and in a place where I'm, doing the right things, and my big Broadway show won't be coming back that I had a blast doing, then I'm in a pretty good position. So I am aware that there are people that have much bigger problems than that their big flashy Broadway show isn't coming back, and boo-hoo, what was me. I get it.
Yeah.
But I'm good. I mean, I'm working hard over here and just cooking and making sure everyone here is healthy and happy, and vice versa. I get a good chance to spend time with my family over here that I don't typically ever get to see. So now I'm just hanging out with my in-laws, and they're lovely.
It was just that your show got sort of a double whammy hit.
Yes.
It was like first it was like it's shutting down, but then you guys didn't know if you were going back to the Winter Garden or
Right.
what was going to happen after the Winter Garden. So it's like you sort of got a double whammy hit with your show.
It's like I put it this way. It's like being evicted from your apartment and then a meteor hitting your apartment.
Totally.
Even if you were coming back, there's no apartment to come back to. And so, yeah, I mean, it was all very strange, but the positive side of that is that the whole process of Beetlejuice was unexpected. So who's to say this was never how it was going to end? It was like, it was strange that we didn't think we would run a month or two. For all intents and purposes, we were not a hit for a big portion of the first part of the show opening, and then we turned this corner and became a hit. And so the whole thing was unexpected. So this is just one of those, not to steal a line from the show, but one of those strange and unusual things that has been happening to our show over and over and over again. So it's quaint, if nothing else.
Yeah. Because like I said, your show was unlike any other.
Yeah.
The whole journey this show has taken. So who knows? I still think that Beetlejuice has a whole future ahead of it.
It does. I think it does no matter what. I mean, even if there was sincerely an announcement that says no more productions of Beetlejuice, which is not a thing, people will still keep this show on. The fans have been, in the best way, rabid to like want more content, to make more content, and now's a better time than ever to make that type of content. We've been seeing it still. I mean, people are up in arms that we're closing, but the way they're showing it is through their art or animatics or making videos, and so it will live on like most things. But I am desperately hoping that it does live on in another production. And I do know that there are plans for a tour, which is super exciting. I know that a lot of people want to see it that can't necessarily get to New York.
Well, let's talk about the fans. Beetlejuice has this incredible fan base from the musical that grew from day one.
Yeah.
And, I love watching you and the company on the social platforms, just how you deal with your fans. You guys love your fans. I mean, what's it like connecting with the Beetlejuice fans?
Yeah, I lovingly call them nerds.
Okay.
And because I consider myself one, I'm a theater nerd. And so all these other theater nerds that have come together, like yourself, to support something weird and strange is like, there's nothing better than when you make something that you love and you think is good, then a lot of other people get on board and go, I like that. Not only that, I can resonate with that is like the best of all possible worlds as a creator and a creative. And so it's been, School of Rock had fans for sure.
Yeah.
But like Beetlejuice has fans. It's a thing. And they are passionate in a way that I don't know if I've been passionate about anything that some of these fans have been passionate about Beetlejuice for. But the interactions, I would say, for the most part, 99.9% of them have been not only positive, but like life-changingly positive. They were just like, everyone was so genuinely needed this type of show that poked fun at the idea of death and looked at death in a certain way. And I think there is a contingent of young people who needed desperately to talk about that. And I think that there are very few shows that really talk about it in a way that is not only palatable, but funny and positive. And I think there are plenty of ways to talk about death. And I find that talking about it in the way we talked about it really allowed fans who not only liked the show, but had things they wanted to say, whether it was to their parents or to themselves. This allowed them that little outlet to do it. And I think that was like one of the most important parts to them. That's what I've been hearing, that we gave them a nice outlet to kind of like bridge their way into conversations with their loved ones about this really crazy taboo subject that a lot of people don't feel comfortable talking about. So I think that also just added to the sort of the fandom that we were a crazy show about something very real.
So at this point, you got to Oklahoma. I'm sure it was like, wow, here we are. It's a whole new change of life. Because, you have that 8 show a week, schedule in your body physically and mentally. And all of a sudden it's taken away from you and you're in this boom. It's like you like blinked yourself to Oklahoma. You're like, wow, this is the new now. Like, how long did it take you to process, like, I'm not doing the show. I don't have to get ready. Like, where's the Beetlejuice voice too? Do you work on that?
Yeah, I was until they told us we weren't coming back. And now I just do it for fun and to scare people. When I go to the grocery store and wear my mask and the Beetlejuice voice comes out, it really terrifies the lady working the produce section. I will say this: Oklahoma, nothing like the musical. Yeah, it's more like the revival, kind of sexy. Ali Strokers everywhere. I think I was one of those people that like leaned into the present really quickly. So I was like, all right, this is new. We're going to figure out what's new. And so now I'm one of the people that have now turned the corner and being like, oh, this is not a vacation. This is happening. I live here right now.
Yeah.
So it is weird. It does feel like someone pulled the emergency brake on a car that was going down the highway at 90 miles an hour. So that is still, the whiplash of that is still pretty felt. Mostly as far as just general health, because I had a cardio class that was called Beetlejuice the Musical every single night that would allow me to do all of my exercise I would ever need to do in a day at night. And now I don't have that. So I have to be now monitoring myself and not eating Sonic cheeseburgers every day and vanilla Cokes instead of water. And because it's very easy to just feel like, well, I can't do anything, so why would I do anything? So I've been trying now to do these little like workouts throughout the day just to make sure I'm still keeping myself on track. But as far as keeping myself busy, I've just pivoted completely into writing, which is another part of my career. And so I've just started working or continue working on projects that I've started years ago, months ago, just now, coming up with ideas as I'm here, because this is a bit of a writer's life. You're just you're here all day, you write, you eat, exercise, and drink. There's not much else to do. No performing. So I've been working on that pretty damn hard, pretty nonstop.
But I want to go back to Sonic for a second, because we all have these like go-to things we're obsessed with. If it's Triscuits or chocolate chip cookies or brownies or like just whatever out of the freezer.
Yeah.
Sonic Drive-In, talk to your fans about that.
As I've said before, I've said this a couple of different times, Sonic has been social distancing for decades, because they're the ones that's like the hostage situation. They bring the thing to the car, you give them the money, you give them the thing, and you drive away. And so we don't have Sonic in New York City. I never had Sonic in California, where I was born and was raised. So it's that amazing little thing that now exists in my life that's only 2 minutes away that will inevitably end me. It will be the end of my life, because I'm gonna need an IV of like fluids for the salt avalanche that I put into my body every other couple of days. But our big snack here is I've been making fresh guacamole and pico de gallo like kind of consistently. So we constantly have like that little like good, nice, pretty not terribly unhealthy snacks here. But I've been doing a ton of cooking, so it's not all Sonic. But when it's not cooking, it's Sonic.
All right, well, let's talk about culinary skills. Does your wife cook? Do the in-laws cook? I mean, who's taking that over in the house?
Me. I have taken over the culinary thing. My mother-in-law is an incredible cook. She makes like one of my favorite. She makes ribs better than anybody I've ever experienced, and so we've had those. But I used to cook all the time, because when I had time, I love cooking, and so I don't get to do that a ton when I'm in a show, because around the time where you cook dinner, you're in a show, and I love the time to be able to wake up in the morning and prep and do all my mise en place for any culinary people out there, and then be able to really take my time and cook and really micromanage the cooking. I made, steak, potatoes, and, like an onion jam last night to put over. So I'm like really genuinely cooking stuff. And my wife's a good baker. My wife makes amazing cookies and brownies, and I just can't do baking because it's all about measuring. And I don't like when math competes with my cooking. But yeah, I'm making a ton of stuff. I mostly cook Mexican food, which is good. And, thankfully very tasty and not too unhealthy.
No, Mexican food is really good. It's got lots of flavors. Like you said, avocado, the beans, everything's really healthy of what you're making. I love that you're now a chef.
I was just hoping you would just start naming more Mexican food ingredients, just as if no one knew what they were. Avocados, onions, jalapeno, cilantro. Just kept naming them. That's the rest of this broadcast.
I'm just naming things that go into the meals that you make.
Let's just name different foods and see how many people stay on.
Yeah. Oh, they'll stay on, believe me. But so, it's like when we first got there, it was like, oh, is it Tuesday? Is it Wednesday? Is it Thursday? Did you fall into a routine right away, or did it take you all a week or so to sort of find your groove?
It's still taking me a bit to figure out what this all is. Like, and I don't know if it's, for me at least, if it's smart to consider weekdays as work days and weekends as time off, because it's never that way for me anyway. Yeah. As an actor, Monday was my day off and so that doesn't really matter anymore. I am trying to like lightly fill my calendar with things so that I am able to look at it and go, tomorrow I'm doing this. I doesn't necessarily care what day it is because it doesn't matter. The only day that matters to me right now is Saturdays, because at noon on Saturdays, they do something here called the noon bell, which is they sort of test out what seems like a sort of hurricane alarm, they test out this kind of like horn thing. And when I'm outside with my dog Kevin, he hears it and howls, and it makes my whole week. So I will save that time. That's my one little time off where I have to bring Kevin outside and watch him listen to the noon bell, which is a sentence and a story I never thought I'd have to say in my life. But that's what happens when you move states. All of a sudden, you thrive for different things, for excitement. But yeah, my calendar is very full. It's just full of now just different things, teaching, and I gave myself some writing deadlines and scheduling Zoom calls with people and stuff like that just to keep in touch. But putting them on the calendar really helps, rather than saying we should talk sometime. So I think that's been very helpful. If that's any advice that anyone needs to hear, has really helped like my soul be like, oh, today, even though it's two things, it's a phone call and it's a this, and I have both of them at this time. So it adds structure to what seems like a structureless time.
So I've been doing the same thing. I mean,
yeah.
I had to do that because the first week was just sort of like, if I didn't have a clock in the house, I wouldn't even know what time it was.
Yeah, the casino time.
I'm a structured person like you are, and I think a lot of people are doing that. I want to talk to you about teaching. Talk about the teaching that you're doing online.
Yeah, I'm teaching. In New York, when I have the time, and even when I don't, I teach. I typically like to teach kind of younger folks who have passion to do this. I'll teach anybody if they really want to. But the ones that like make me the most happy to teach are the people that I can see like, wow, you feel the same way I feel about this, and you want to do this. This is not just a hobby for you. So I teach a lot at Broadway Artist Alliance. I've been teaching there for quite a while, along with a ton of other Broadway folk that teach there and consistently come back because they always bring in like really amazing people to work with, and they treat us really nicely. And so they pivoted very quickly into the online classes, and I was actually their pilot class to see if it would work. Because it's like, 12 to 13 students with no accompanist and no room to work with. So like, it's not live necessarily. It's also through a computer. So we just kind of gave it a shot. I told them, I said, this is going to be weird and we're going to figure it out as we go. And if it's a total failure, then at least we've learned something. But it wasn't. I would think 98% of it was very similar to class. It just is like this. You have to just pretend that you're not alone in the room. You're with everybody. But it was great. They all had their own tracks, and we're able to sort of like, it had to teach me a different way to teach, because typically I like to go start at different points in a song, right? So we can actually work on things. But these classes have become more general advice about auditioning and like how it reflects in the song you've chosen. And so that's been really helpful to me to do that. And then I have been doing some private coaching, but mostly it's been like group classes and Q&As with like schools for like a donation. Like I'll tend to try and do like every third class, I'll donate that money to the Actors Fund. And I always remind the people that take in the class, if you or your parents have an extra $5, donate it to the Actors Fund, because it's an easy thing to do and you kind of sometimes forget you need a reminder.
See, I love that. Do you do like improv classes, or is it musical? Is it a combination?
It's, I had an improv class that wanted to take an improv class and me try to teach them improv class. And I said, I was a little nervous at the idea of trying to do improv for the very reason, actually, right now, I think that you and I right now are on a delay, is the same reason, like the improv is never going to be a thing, because sometimes, not sometimes, all the time, comedy is about timing. And so nothing ruins timing more than a glitch or a delay. So I did, at the end of the class, I did a Q&A with them. We played a small improvised dating game. It's called, it's one of those, like, it takes a play off of the dating game. There are 3 bachelors or 3 bachelorettes, and I don't know who they are. I've been away from the camera. and they pick who they are. And for me asking questions to them and them improvising the answers, I then have to guess who they are, which is a blast. And certain improv games work, certain ones will not. But I think as we go, I'm sure that there are some incredible improvisers out there that will figure out new games and new things to do with this, what we have at our disposal. So that's, I've been doing that, but mostly it's been auditioning.
I love that. You know, I also want to ask you about TikTok. Who taught you TikTok?
No, I'm not on TikTok, to be very clear. I am on TikTok, but I'm not on TikTok. Presley Ryan. Presley, our lovely, that's my dog barking, you can hear.
We love Kevin.
Presley Ryan, who took over the role of Lydia, is our social media guru and our conduit into the world of the teenager in our building. And so I asked her what it was, and rather than tell me, she just said, well, let's do one. And then I got really obsessed with doing them with her because it was so fun and stupid. And I say that with love, because it was, I don't typically, I do very silly things for a living. I don't technically do like a ton of silly things for free on the side for myself.
Yeah.
This like really genuinely made me happy to do for nothing, for no reason. It just made me happy. I love that it also became kind of a way we could reach fans for Beetlejuice, because I had no clue that would have been a thing. So that was great. And I'm going to miss her a ton because she's just such a genuinely sweet girl. There's a guy mowing the lawn right outside the window, so I apologize. And I didn't plan for this.
It's all nice though. Like we have noise here in the city. It's like before we get ready to do these, someone will be like, "Oh, they're drilling in the street or something." It's all, a lawnmower would be pretty cool. Believe me, I'd love to have a lawnmower. Someone mow some lawn here in New York.
There's a lot of it here. There's a lot of lawns here in Oklahoma City.
Yeah. Are you binge watching anything as a family, or do you and your wife binge watch stuff and then the in-laws do? We
all typically watch the same stuff. So it's like, we just finished a documentary called, I want to interview this guy right now who's doing an impeccable job. Almost incredible. We watched How to Fix a Drug Scandal, this documentary on Netflix, which is excellent. We watched Tiger King like everybody else. Which I can't recommend highly enough. And then we just started watching Unorthodox, which is a incredibly sort of a 4-episode scripted series based on a memoir about a woman that grew up in the very Orthodox community, Jewish community in Williamsburg, and who escapes. Oh. And it's like you wouldn't think of it like just from the I wasn't necessarily all that interested in it from like looking at the picture, started watching it, and it's like what starts as very benign, like this is just, this could be very benign watching these people live their lives. It like instantly becomes almost weirdly like a thriller. And it's just like fascinating culture, and I highly, highly recommend Unorthodox. I wish there were more episodes than 4. It's just the way it's shot and acted, and it's brilliant. Really, really, really interesting find. So that's my big recommendation. That's actually
we just started watching Babylon Berlin, which is a series on Amazon Prime. It's right before World War II. It's sort of like a noir kind of thing, like Raymond Chandler, but in Germany.
Oh, cool.
It's huge production. It's really, really great. It's like, it's cliffhanger. Every episode is really good. But I'm also watching The Old Dark Shadows, too.
Oh, wow.
So I'm obsessed with all this different stuff.
I like the old Raymond Chandler reference that nobody watching this will get.
Yeah, this is really great. I also want to talk to you about, I'm so glad you became famous, because I have been reading a tweet that you put up last week about all the crazy jobs that you had throughout your early part of your career.
Yes.
And I want to ask you, I'm going to mention some names, and you just tell me like how long this job lasted and how crazy these jobs were.
Sure. This is a great one.
Jamba Juice.
Jamba Juice lasted for 2 years. I worked at one of the first Jamba Juices ever when they first released it, and it was an amazing place. After 2 years, I moved to New York City to go to college, and I got a transfer position to the Jamba Juice in New York, and it was nothing like the one in California. They all hated their job, and it made me want to quit, so I quit.
Okay. So what did you do there? Because I think employee training manager.
Yes, I was. This feels like a job interview. I was an employee who I ran the cash register. I would make the smoothies. I would make all the things. I knew how to make everything. I would stock the freezers. I would do all the stuff. It's a very like if everyone does everything kind of thing. And then I would work there so much, and I became a training manager. So I would be the person that would either interview somebody. And I was like 16 years old. What do I have to really interview somebody about? I was like, you know how to press buttons on a register? They're like, yeah. And I was like, you're hired. So I did that. And then because I was a training manager, not only did I get a special pin in my visor, but I got to transfer to New York without having to apply to be a training manager at a new Jamba Juice that was opening, except for the fact that in New York, the 4 employees that I was there to train not only didn't care about Jamba Juice, but didn't care to listen to me at all. So I was like, and they were also older than me. I was like, what? They shouldn't be listening to me. I was like, I wouldn't listen to me. I'm in college. I barely hear. Like it was fun, and I know the drinks, and I just recently had a Jamba Juice for the first time in many, many years, and I'm proud to say, still going strong, still good.
I love it. Did Jamba Juice get you to New York?
No, that would be amazing. No, NYU got me to New York, but I didn't believe in I wanted to also have a job when I got here. I wanted to make sure I wasn't just trying to freeload.
No, I love it though. I still think Jamba Juice got you to New York. We're gonna leave that. I'm kidding.
Maybe in the long run it did. Who knows?
All right, Uno Pizzeria.
Uno Pizzeria on 3rd Avenue at around like. I don't know. It's now, I believe it was the Smith. It turned into another one of like a Smith. But when I was there, it was Uno Pizzeria. And for the first 3 days, I had to sit in the basement and watch a training video, like an old school training video. And they served us just appetizers. So I just got fat on appetizers for 3 days. And in a dark, like lightless room, watching a bad training video. And then when I finally hit the floor, I got a tour of the kitchen and saw kind of how they made some of the stuff, and I was like, I can't go out there and serve this to people. So, and I'm sure it has. By the way, just to say this out loud, I am sure it has nothing to do with like how they want it to be run, but there were certain employees that were like, unsavory folks to say the least, and I was like, I don't know if I feel comfortable being an accomplice to food poisoning.
No.
So I quit after like a week, not even.
Okay, I thought it was 2 days. I had somewhere written in your.
No, it's probably. I mean, it might. Those I put on there, they were estimates, but 2 days that could be right too.
It was probably 2 days on the floor, a week downstairs eating hors d'oeuvres or eating, appetizers, trying to figure it all out.
And a lifetime of regret.
Totally.
Yeah.
Bolo. What was Bolo?
Bolo, I loved. Bolo is one of Bobby Clay's restaurants. That was a Spanish tapas place. That I just needed a job. I wanted a job, and I had served at a couple different places, and I was way too young to work there, but I lied to tell them I was 21 because I had to serve wine at the restaurant. So I lied and I got the job because I was charming enough to get the job. And it was a really, really, really tightly run ship, and I was not ready for that. But two things I remember. One is I had to taste every wine one night with the manager. And I walked home totally drunk when I was 18 years old to my apartment. And my parents called me the next day when they were like, do you remember talking about last night? And I was like, no. So I was like totally out of my league when it came to that. And then 2, I couldn't really carry the trays of these heavy plates. So in the middle of them singing happy birthday to somebody or doing like a really lovely moment, I tripped and fell and did a huge thing on my first or second week there. And never fully recovered from that. And then thankfully, I ended up getting a show. I left Bolo to go do my very first professional show, which was History Boys at the Amundsen Theater.
Oh, okay.
And then they had to close down Bolo because there was construction behind it, so they had to like demolish the restaurant. So I
love that. All right, real estate agent.
Yes.
Did you get your license?
Yeah. Wouldn't you want to trust me with phoning you out?
I would love to go on an apartment tour with you. Totally, I would.
Yeah, I think I was pretty good at my job because as an actor, you have to be a pretty good like embellisher of like, this room is 1 by 3, but it could be a very nice kitchen. And you're like,
Yeah.
So I was a real estate agent for, I don't know, I rented Nick Blameyer,
Yeah.
fellow Broadway veteran, an apartment. And then right after that, I booked a gig. I moved to Utah to do Next to Normal at the Pioneer Theater. And I didn't get a chance to renew my license. It spent like a month of online training. I loved learning about it. I still love that I learned about it and got my license and everything. I don't know if I was built for like the job of it all, because it is not a hourly rate. You get paid by who rents something, and there are a lot of people out there that think they want to rent or buy, and then after 3 weeks of pulling you around, they go, we're gonna be fine. And then you don't see anything from that. So it's a frustrating job, but it's lucrative if you can get it.
Had you worked with Nick already for Glory Days?
Yeah, I had, and I'd known Nick before Glory Days, so it was like, so I was like fun to take Nick around and rent him. I think it was like one of the very first apartments we saw. It was this very small sort of first floor apartment. I remember it because it was the only one that I rented. And
so Glory Days was your Broadway debut, right?
Sort of.
You never went on.
Yeah, I mean, I got to bow on opening night, but it was that was it. Yeah, I didn't go on. I had all the rehearsals and was ready to go, but we unfortunately didn't get to run more than a day. So,
what do you remember about that night? Because you were at Circle in the Square, right?
Yeah, I want to just, before I answer this question, are we not going to get to me working at the Masonic Lodge?
Oh, I'm getting there. Trust me.
Because I know that a lot of people want to hear that story. And I'm willing to shed light on
that. That night you took your bow at Circle in the Square. Because you guys didn't know you were closing opening night, did you?
No, we had no idea. We didn't know until the next day. And so we had a really lovely opening night. We had a great opening night. We were the toast of the town. 6 unknown guys got to be the center of attention with some pretty, heavy artillery like people there. And it was just a dream because I was super young. And I was one of 5 debuts out of 6, and it was just this like amazing moment. And so the party was incredible because everybody knew who we were for the moment. I got to I found myself talking to Kathy Lee Gifford, and it was just like a weird thing where I'm like, I only know you by television, so it's just so weird to like talk to you. And at that point, I hadn't met a ton of people in New York that I would consider to be known quantities, and now it's like more normal to meet people that are like famous, I guess. But it was a whirlwind night, and I remember just soaking it in. I remember a lot about that night, which is good because the next day when we woke up, they were like, we have a company meeting, and then we got there and they were like, we're no longer a company. So it was like, okay, good. Well, we at least had a really fun night.
No, because we were there. I was there. I watched you all bow. The party was fabulous that night. I remember that night really well.
It was a blast, and it was this weird moment where, like, wow, this could be really a fun ride. And then it's I think it's a good moment for people to understand that it can happen because it is about savoring the moment and is about how risky Broadway truly is, and how when a show is a hit, it's like miraculous.
Yeah. Okay, now I want to get into Masonic Lodge. Where was this?
All right, so I believe, I think my memory serves the location. I believe it's on 23rd Street in New York. Okay. I worked for a temp agency, which really, I thrived working there because they sent me on these gigs that were perfect for me. I could go audition, but also I could, answer phones for a couple hours and be on Facebook, and it was a low pressure job. To be honest, sometimes when I'm in Beetlejuice, I was like, man, I wish I could just answer the phone for like 5 hours. But I was very good at it because I could go to a place for a week, work, get paid, and then leave. So I didn't have to deal with any office politics or anything like that. So I was really loving this. And then I got this call to go and be the receptionist for a day at this Masonic Lodge. And I walk in, and it's very weird and dark and creepy looking, and there's this long hallway lobby, and at the end of the lobby was a small wooden table with a phone on it and a pad. And then the person that met me there was like, here's where you'll sit. So I'm sitting at the end of this creepy, like Disney haunted mansion hallway. And they're like, there's only 2 ways the phone can go. So if somebody calls, you're either going to want to talk to this person or this person. I was like, great. They're like, we would prefer if you weren't on your own personal phone during the job. And I said, fine. So and they said, and that's it. Any questions? And I said, no questions. Great. And before I even got a chance to sit down, this guy walks out of another door, which I didn't even know was there. And he has this like weird suit on and a fez, right? Which I didn't know at the time was like, that's what they wear. And he goes, I don't remember his name. So I just call him like, Branford Montgomery. He's like, I'm Branford Montgomery, the Grand Master of the Masons. And he said it like that. And so I, being a comedian and wanting to make people laugh, I said, and I'm Alex Brightman, not the Grand Master of the Masons. And I shook his hand. And he lightly shook my hand. And I wasn't smart enough yet to read the disdain on his face. Yep. And he walked away without another word. I sat down. I took one phone call, transferred it to something. The second phone call I took was my temp agency calling. And I said, hello. And I said, Alex? And I said, yeah. And they were like, hey, it's so-and-so from your temp agency. Hey, they're all set there. They don't need you there anymore. And I said, oh, okay, great. I didn't think about it. And then I left. And as I got outside, I was like, I was just fired because I disrespected the man in the fez hat. And so that was, I believe I put on there, I was all there for all of 6 minutes.
6 minutes.
And it's a good lesson to learn. You funny people out there, sometimes your comedy is not appreciated. I feel like I was ahead of my time with Branford Montgomery of the Masons.
Well, I see that could be a character in one of your stand-up routines. For
sure. I tell the story enough at this point, so it's like for sure that guy exists in my mind as a cartoon at this point. But not to belittle the Masons as a thing, but it was just this moment. I was like, what is going on here, man? Like I'm an actor. I dress up for a living. Why are you dressed up?
Yeah, thank you. Was that the worst job you had of all of them? Because it was 6 minutes. It was kind of great. I retired after 6 minutes. Yes, thank you.
No, I think maybe it's got to be some restaurant. I feel like I've worked in like 18 restaurants in New York City at this point, off and on before I started actually having more of a steady career thing. But no, it must have been like some restaurant. Now, I don't remember anything being like devastatingly bad, and I'm sure somebody in my life will remind me of what it was, but I don't really remember it being all that bad. I like structure, so I don't mind someone telling me what to do. I don't mind having a boss. Yeah. I don't resent having a boss. So I think it's good for a job.
Do you remember what your last job was that you no longer had to do that anymore because you got a show that was stable enough for you to pay the bills? Like, I'm an actor now or I'm a performer?
God, that's a great question. That is a great question. And I don't know if I know it's probably a restaurant. And I don't know what it is. I don't even remember what it was. I'm sure someone in my life who's watching this, or I'm going to ask after this, what it is. That's a question I have never gotten before, Richard. You've asked that, and I've been just talking about this the other day. I feel like I get asked a lot of the same questions. That is one I have never been asked. So I can't wait to actually go and think about that and feel what it is. I'm sure it's a restaurant. I'm sure it didn't last long. I didn't stay a long time at many of these jobs. Mostly because I would just either get something or I just wanted to audition more than I was. That's a great question. I am completely stumped at that answer. I don't know.
No, because everybody realized they're like, oh my God, I don't have to do this anymore. Not that I minded it, but I don't have to do this anymore. And now it's like, that was my last job,
Right. And the thing is, I tell people this when I teach, like, I am not above the idea that if this ends, if Beetlejuice is not there when I come back and I don't have anything to do, I am not going to just rest on, sit on these laurels that I will, if I need to, you will see me behind a Starbucks counter making money because I don't believe in the idea that we just sit back and wait for jobs to happen. I'm the first person. If it turns out I need to go get money, I will go get money. And I'm not ashamed to do that. And no one should be at a restaurant or at a thing. It's about living. So for me, it's like, you want to be an actor, but you want to be a smart person too.
Sure. That's great because, in the 1960s, Elaine Stritch, during her off period, was the bartender for happy hour at Elaine's restaurant.
No way.
Yeah, there are pictures all over the internet of her changing the blackboard, like Elaine's happy hour. Can you imagine going to Elaine's and sitting at the bar and your bartender is Elaine Stritch?
That is incredible. I love that idea. Someone should do that now. Someone should. I'm sure there's plenty of Broadway folks who could open up a small bar.
Totally.
All right, I'll do it.
And have people like when this all kicks in again, people in between jobs should work at this bar.
I'm gonna make it mine. I will rent out. We'll do Brightman's bar.
Yeah.
And then people have guest bartenders like Brian Stokes Mitchell, and yeah, we'll have that.
I'll be the host. I'll greet people at the door and say, "Oh, I'm sorry, we have a 10-minute wait for bar stools."
And then I'll get to.
Listen.
Wait. I want to make one more joke.
Yeah.
And then I'll get to say, "This is your server, Michael Cerverus."
All right.
I'm not sure that was worth it, but we can move on now.
Is everything good? Who? Oh, I'm going to the bar. I have to ask you about is you had a drink making machine in your dressing room, didn't you?
Still there, collecting dust.
All right. You have to tell me what that is.
All right. I happen happy to. I get no money from promoting this, so I just enjoyed the thing. So I want to make sure they know this is not you baiting me into like an advertisement.
Oh no, yeah, I'm fascinated by this.
It's fascinating. I was just looking, for like gift ideas and stuff. And when we got our eviction notice at the Winter Garden, I wanted to give the building, the cast, the company, the crew a present. So I found this machine that's made by Keurig, who makes all the coffee machines. They got together with Anheuser-Busch and they created a Keurig machine that makes cocktails. And so it's called Drinkworks with an S at the end, Drinkworks, all one word. And it's a machine that doesn't look unlike a Keurig. It's a little bigger with more of a refrigeration tank at the back that takes these pods, which have liquid in them, has actual alcohol in the pods that's been undistilled. So it's like completely like from the still alcohol. So when you put the pod in, it reads the pod, what the drink is. It chills the water to a certain temperature. It carbonates the water depending on the drink. And we'll serve it so that the amount of water in the drink will have diluted the drink down to an actual genuinely alcoholic cocktail. And we were very skeptical because it's almost too good to be true. And then when we got it, that night after the show, we tried like 10 different things, each one better than the next. It was consistent. It's kind of a bitch to clean, but like that's just something you have to deal with any kind of machine. But it was so amazing, and the cast, like, obviously, it's a cast on Broadway with crew members who, everybody like has a drink, a cocktail after a show. Not every night, hopefully, but people would pay for the pods, and the pods were, relatively inexpensive depending on what drinks cost in New York. It's not terrible. It was just a really, really the right gift for the right company, and I can't recommend it enough. I think it's a great thing.
So you already had Brightman's bar. You had Brightman's bar at the Winter Garden.
Yeah, I've had a coffee bar during School of Rock, and now I had a regular bar for the adult show.
You have to get that out of your dressing room, my friend, when you're back here.
Yeah, I do. I have to make a special trip to make it back because I miss it. I miss everything. I don't just miss the drink with me.
How often do you connect with the company of Beetlejuice? Do you guys do Zoom or, do you check in?
At least once a week. We do. We're still doing Snob. We're still doing Saturday Night on Broadway, with a lot of shows where they, will have a drink. And in our show, we had a themed Snob every week. It was this big deal to us. We went all out for these themes, Game of Thrones and beach parties, and so we loved it. We were very good at Snob. So we've kept the tradition going. And so we were doing that. We had a toga party where we all dressed up in togas on Zoom. And then we had an anything but clothes party, which I unfortunately did not get to attend. But I don't know. I would have worn like a cardboard box, I guess. And then is it Saturday now? No, it's tomorrow. Yeah, I don't know what day it is. Tomorrow we're doing a closing night party. Because we just got the news that we're not here, so we're all going to wear black. And we're going to mourn the death of our show in a fun way. And we're going to have, like appropriate themed drinks and all that kind of stuff. But then singularly, I go on walk with my dog and I'll FaceTime a cast member and we'll just chat for a little bit. So I'm keeping in touch. And Everyone's sort of keeping in touch through text, and we're all still not really willing to let go of the idea that we're not a family anymore, because we're not. We are completely still connected in that way, because there has been no closure. So we are still very much like the cast of Beetlejuice and a family and all that kind of stuff. So all that comes with it. And so it's been nice to be able to like commiserate and mourn and have fun and laugh and like we're still running, because it's a nice thing to have those people around when you need them.
I love that. I want to talk about two projects that you and I have spoken about before. Okay. What's happening with the Whipping Boy?
That's a great question. Because I have a ton of time to work, Drew Gasparini and I have been working off and on, because he's also in the midst of releasing an album, and he's working on the Karate Kid musical. By the way, just to say, his album released today. His full album on Spotify. We Aren't Kids Anymore. You should all go check it out. I got a chance to listen to it beforehand, and I haven't stopped listening to it since. So, and I'm not just saying that as his friend. I think it's genuinely a rock and roll, like amazing pop album. But we had been working on The Whipping Boy for a while, and we have the rights to this incredible novel. And we've been trying to make it a stage show, and we've done a pretty good job. We did a workshop of it that was relatively successful. But we thought, we just started thinking that maybe it would be better if we sort of turned and did it as an animated musical. And I just think animation, with what we're trying to do, would make it so much more vibrant and interesting to be able to tell this incredibly weird and wondrous and whimsical story, rather than trying to replicate it 8 times a week on stage and risk losing some of the magic. Actually, we can actually create more magic on screen. So we've been writing sort of this bigger treatment of what an animated version would look like. It's taking a little while because neither of us are versed in animation. And so we just need a little help, and we will inevitably have something to go. After this quarantine's over, we'll have a big package of like what this would look like. And if anyone from Pixar is listening, give us a phone call.
Love that. What about It's Kind of Funny? That's another project
It's Kind of a Funny Story is what it's called. So it's but it's kind of a funny story. It's based on the movie and the novel. The novel was written by Ned Vizzini, who also wrote Be More Chill. And it is about just to catch people up. It's about a kid that gets himself into a mental institution after he decides not to go through with committing suicide, just to see what's wrong with him and to see just get his brain looked at and all that kind of stuff. And it takes place mainly in a psychiatric ward. And so we had a workshop with Second Stage, which was a blast. And we learned a ton. And then now we have a bigger workshop happening, which I can't really dive into what the details are just yet. But after this is over, we have a committed next big step workshop that hopefully will then result in, I would imagine, hopefully a production somewhere. The idea is to get this thing to Broadway because it is big. It's a big show. It's told through the eyes of a very creative kid who sees things very theatrically. So we're hoping that, in the next year, we'll have something to really share. But we are working tirelessly on both. And I'm always coming up with ideas for other things to the point where we have to stop ourselves because we come up with too many ideas and we just don't know what to work on.
Beautiful. And then there's the film you made with Billy Crystal today. Yeah. Did you make that last year?
Yeah, we made it. I worked on it while I was in Beetlejuice. They graciously let me film. They take a couple shows off here and there to film bits and pieces. And it's a beautiful and very Billy Crystal film. And I say that with love because you can smell a Billy Crystal film from a mile away. It has himself all over it. And him and Alan Zweibel, who's a notorious writing partner and also a notorious writer on his own right, they worked on this movie and co-directed it or co-wrote it, and Billy directed it. And it is this great, touching, funny movie about sort of a Lorne Michaels type running an SNL type show. And he is a guy who's sort of losing grip, sort of starting early stages of Alzheimer's, and and he's not sure how to tell anybody in his TV family or his real family, and sort of the struggles of the idea of if your brain is all you have, then what happens when you lose your brain? And it's this, and he meets Tiffany Haddish in the movie, who is a younger dynamic, and you have a friendship love. It's not a love story, because I think a lot of people might think that's what it is, but it's about an older, comedy guy meeting somebody who has no clue who he is, right? And them just becoming really loving friends for each other in his last days, in the last days of what he has left in his head. So a lot of very funny stuff, like a really, really heavy emotional stuff, and I think they balance in equal measure really well. I'm so excited to see it. I've heard from Billy that it's very good. They've done a couple of sort of tester screenings and first cuts and stuff, and it's looking great. And he did say, which made my whole day, said that there was a bit that they gave me in the movie. They said that it tested very well. So I'm very glad. I'm excited that I'm not in the cutting room floor.
Yeah, what was it like working with Billy Crystal? That must have been a big pinch me moment for you.
Auditioning for Billy Crystal was the pinch me moment. I walk into a room and there's Billy Crystal and Alan Zweibel, Gilda Radner's best friend.
Yeah,
and I know everything about them. And I tried not to creep them out by baiting them into sort of certain stories until I got the job. And when I got the job, then all I did at lunch was just ask them questions about old SNL and stuff like that. But it was a very big pinch me moment. But also, I would say this, that like showbiz Jews really get each other. And so we really got each other. We really like understood each other. Like just by walking in a room, we both were like, I see you, I get you. And we got to riff with each other on and off screen. He just sent me, he was at JFK a couple months ago, and I got a text on my phone. This is the pinch me moment. I get a text on my phone says from Billy Crystal. First of all, you're like, what is going on? And then I opened the picture up, and it was when Beetlejuice had done that takeover at JFK. So you couldn't look anywhere without seeing Beetlejuice stuff. And it was him standing in front of a poster of me going, and I was like, this is insane. Like, this is the guy I've watched for my entire life and been loving everything he's done. And he sent me a picture of something I've done. And that was like, that, and even just talking about it makes me like slightly emotional in a way. But it's like, it was great. I hope that the movie's good. I think it's good. So I hope there's more.
We can't wait. I mean, just to watch you on screen, and like I said, to have been directed by Billy Crystal, and that picture he sent you. I hope you have that in your house somewhere.
I have it on my phone. I don't have a lot of showbiz stuff in my house. I think if you walked into our apartment, you wouldn't know what we did for a living, which I think is a good thing.
All right. I get it. Listen, finally, what have you learned about yourself during this whole shutdown that you didn't realize before? Is there something specific?
Let's think. I'm sure there is. I think, I have learned something. I think that I am incredibly agreeable, may be a fault. And I think if I'm really being candid and really being honest about this question, I think that like I, my whole life, have been such a yes man and such like sure, I'll do this, sure, I'll do that. And then, shouldering the burden of all the yeses sometimes will actually make me not happy because I've said so many things. I have no time for myself. So I am slowly learning because I have nowhere to go and because I can't make really much excuses for not wanting to do this, or not wanting to audition for that, or not putting myself on tape for this. I just say yes. And it's starting when I look at my calendar. Yes, it's full. Yes, that's nice. But on the flip side of that, like it means that like it takes stuff out. I don't realize how much it takes the toll out of me. So I think that I have to be, what I've learned is I have to in the future or in the present, or I'm working on it now, just to be a little more like selfish in the way that is good, not selfish in the way that is bad, but really like actually define the things that I want to do and genuinely want to do, not just because someone is asking. And so I think I've learned that because I have nowhere to go. So my answer to something I don't want to do has to become eventually, I don't want to do that, rather than I can't. I'd love to, but I am already booked. It's okay to be able to say, I'm not interested, or I don't want to do it, because when I do it, it takes a little bit out of me that I didn't want to be taken out of me. So I think I've learned that.
I love that. Listen, I adore you, my friend.
I adore you back.
So you know that. You and I go back. You and I go back a long time.
Yep.
I love watching what's happened to your career and everything, watching you when you first started here in New York. Like I said, I was there that opening night of glory days when I had no idea who you were, but I watched you take your bow, and then I watched you do everything else through Wicked and Matilda, and then School of Rock, when we all fell in love with you as being carrying your own show as Dewey. I mean, it's a big deal to watch what's happened to you. You stay humble. You're so lovely. Everybody adores you in this business.
Thanks.
You give back. I mean, just so you know that.
I appreciate you saying that in the way you said it. But I will say, I am not unaware of that, and it is like deeply felt when I can like look online and know that it's like I feel like I'm doing a good job, but I also feel like people understand who I am and that they like who I am, whether or not it's what they agree with. I'm very happy that people are supportive, because I tend to be very supportive. So it's nice to have it both ways. But for what you just said, thank you. And it's been such a cool honor to like be able to talk to somebody throughout stages of your career and life. And I hope that we get to do it for like a very long time.
Oh, this is just the beginning of your career. Just so you know that you've got all the rest of it ahead of you.
Oh, thank you. I was just lying about wanting to talk to you. This is it for me.
Oh, I know it is totally. Well, you know what? At least I got a lot out of you too. At least I found out your good jobs and your bad jobs.
Yeah, that's right.
But I also want to thank our audience who tunes in to watch this. And if anybody out there ever wants to donate, of course, there is the Actors Fund, but there's also Broadway Cares, because this is normally the 6 weeks where Broadway Cares was raising all their money through the Red Bucket Follies at all the theaters on Broadway across the country and even around the world. And they usually raise $6 million during these 6 weeks of fundraising.
Right.
But the coolest thing is that right now, Broadway Cares has their COVID-19 Emergency Assistance Fund online. They have already raised over $1.5 million, which they have given to the Actors Fund. So, it never stops. And all anybody has to do is say, here's $1 or something. But there are so many great causes. You've all been raising money. You yourself raise money every day when you do these classes or whatever else. So, I want to thank you. And for everybody watching, let's see, what's today? Today is, what is today? Today's Friday. See, again, Tuesday, if you watch me at noon, I'm going to have the stars of the Bob Dylan and Conor McPherson musical, The Girl from the North Country. And then next Friday at noon, I have the stars of Moulin Rouge. But like I said, I was thrilled to sit with you today, Alex, from Beetlejuice. I had Kritzer here last Friday. I love you guys.
We love you right back. And can I say one last thing about donating?
Yeah.
A lot of people online say when I tell people to donate, they'll come back with, I'm broke. I don't have any money. I don't have $1. Two things on that. One, you never have to feel guilty about not donating. If you don't have the money and you need it to live, you have to do that to live. That's not what we're asking you to do. What we are asking you to do, if you don't have that money, is to inspire somebody else that has the money to do it. So that would be your version of donating. If you can't donate the physical money yourself, donate a moment of your life to reach out to somebody who might have that $5 and tell them to donate. So that would be very important. Rather than trying to say, I'm broke, no problem. It's just that the more people that can is great, but you never need to feel guilty about not donating.
That's beautifully put.
Yeah.
I thank you for that. Now, what are you making for dinner tonight? Are you cooking tonight?
No, we're going to Sonic. I've said it too many times now.
You're like, go to that Sonic.
Yeah.
Alex, thank you, my friend. And I hope to see you in the flesh soon. Everybody stay safe and wash your hands.
Wash your hands, stay inside. And I love you, dude. I'll see you soon.
Okay. See you soon. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Beautiful.